Okay, so hey everybody, my name's Susan Anderson, and as an instructor here, I get many calls, emails, and pure chat questions. And I thought today I would kind of put together a webinar for you with some of my most frequent questions. It's kind of a random webinar, and some of you may know some of the answers, but I hope that all of you may learn something new today. Again, it's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge of information, but I hope that all of you will learn something. So let's get started with a few of the questions. So for I think the number one call that I get is about frustration. I think this affects everybody. I'm pretty sure it has at one time or another. Does this look like you? Or this? That's pretty calm for me, I'll have to say. Don't let it come to this. We are here to help. So if it's not affected you yet, you're pretty fortunate. I don't want to say that your time is coming, but this is a challenging course, and you're learning many new things at one time. So you should pat yourself on the back right now. Sorry. I mean it. Those taking this course, I apologize, a little technical. I apologize. I want to give y'all a round of applause. Taking this course deserves a round of applause. Seriously. This is not an easy online course to take. You're not only learning anatomy, physiology, terminology, pharmacology, learning how to use DictaScribe, MDAT, Book of Style rules, account-specific rules, and this doesn't even take into consideration the accents, audio, speed with which these dictators talk. Some of you have families, jobs, health issues, etc. So I'm serious. You should be proud of yourselves. So let's get to some of the questions. So anything in life pretty much worth having is going to take effort and hard work. A lot of questions stem from when to leave blanks. Some of you leave a blank too quickly, and students ask, when do we leave blanks? How do we know when to leave blanks? Some of you leave blanks way too quickly, and some don't ever want to leave a blank. But you need to understand that even the most seasoned and knowledgeable medical transcriptionists leave blanks. That's part of the job. And I can hear some of you say right now, "Oh, I know I could get it. I know I can do it." But we can't stand to leave a blank. We're like a dog with a bone. But let's be realistic. When a dictator is driving down the road, dictating on a car phone, on a freeway, eating an apple or chewing or drinking coffee or whatever with the radio on in the background, and there are going to be times when we will never, ever be able to understand what he or she is saying. And we just need to know that we're going to have to let that go. That is just not going to, you're not going to be able to understand that. And the quicker you understand, you come to realize that there will be those instances, you can quit spending time on those blanks. That's going to be the impossible But I do. I can hear some of you saying, I bet I could get it. I know I could. If I just played around with it long enough, I bet I could. But the sooner you realize the difference between the possible and the truly impossible, the better off you'll be and the less time you're going to be spending on. You're going to be quit wasting time on that. Having said that, there are times when students and medical transcriptionists give up way too soon, and they leave blanks when it's possible to figure out what's being said with just a little more research. Having said that, the importance of knowing how to research is the key. The more you do, the better off you'll be, and you'll know where to look. So I don't want to sound ancient or anything like that, but when I started, we had to look everything up in books. I'm not kidding. I had every one of these and more. Not only were they costly, they were about $40 a piece, US dollars. You had to stop what you were doing. You had to know the specialty. You had to go to your bookshelf right beside your computer. You had to go, oh, okay, I think it was a GIGU term. You had to know what it kind of sounded like to begin with. You had to flip through the pages. You had to pick the, I mean, listen, if you couldn't figure out the beginning of the word, it was really, really difficult. And ouch, did I mention that it was like costly also? Okay, so if you had a term like fan and still, forget it. I mean, you could search for hours for F and never find it. That does make me feel old, I'll have to say that. The benefit of having Google and its ability to offer suggestions is just incredible. So let Google do the vast amount of work for you. Talk about saving time and money. So the steps I would take nowadays is if I was looking at fan and still incision, this is how I'd approach it. I would go to Google first, and I would type in, because we know from this report it's a cesarean section, and so I would type in Google cesarean section operation, because we know it's an operation, and because fan, you're not quite sure how to spell that, I would put an asterisk in front of fan and then put incision. And luckily it brought it up just on the first hit. That asterisk can bring up a lot of luckily it brought it up this time. It worked out great. If it hadn't, I would have just done more research on Google. Next step, I would have gone to MT911. Now, MT911 again does not use our account specifics, and it doesn't use our, some of the terminology or anything, but it's a great resource site for you guys. So go to 911, click on MT samples, type in the search site there, cesarean section, because we know that's the type of operation that it is. And then I use the Control plus the F key, because I really do heart Control F. I mean, I really do. I can't say it enough. And then it has 1 of 13 on this one. And there it is right there. First one, fan and still incision. It just takes a minute, and it's that much more incomplete. You can scroll down and it will take you to every incision. If you're looking for another incision, a uterine incision, you can't quite make out what they're saying. It's incredible. So again, 911, it may not use the same account specifics, but we all have the same body parts. The surgeries are being done on the same anatomy. So keep that in mind. It's a great surgical tool to look up terminology. Another question that I get quite frequently is, how long should I spend researching before I leave a blank? Kind of ties into the same thing, but what I would say is this will depend on whether you're in school or not. While you're learning and in school, I think you should spend time learning how to research, because the more time you spend now developing your researching skills, it's going to pay off in many ways in the future. Not only are you not only will you know how to research, you'll know which websites to trust, and you'll know quickly where to look for what term. Now, when you start working, you have to balance out what, it's time and money. So you have to balance that out. In the work world, with difficult dictators, you'll want to ask your supervisor or account manager if there are any samples available for that particular dictator. And hopefully they'll have some common phrases from him or her, especially those sections they speed through, like review of systems or physical exam. The time to develop those skills, though, for researching is now, while you're in school. So my answer is spend the time you need to feel confident in your own skills, because you will not have help when you start researching. When you start working for researching and finding terms, you'll be expected to deliver that document with as few blanks as possible, and as accurate as possible, and it will be up to you to do the research. So this often ties in with the skeletal chapter and the difficult dictators, and I'll just let these pictures kind of speak for themselves. We've all felt it. We know. But I will say that here in school, you want to give every dictation your all. And you want to try your best. And after submitting your report, listen to the audio and read along with the answer key, especially in those heavily green and purple areas. So you want to listen several times, if that's what it takes, to be able to understand what is being said. This is going to pay off for you. And what I really suggest is playing around with that speed with the answer key in the audio. Write down key phrases and use the answer key as a learning tool. It's not punishment. So take down notes from the instructor graded reports and apply it to your next reports. But really playing around with that audio and speed helps you with the next time you hear that same dictator also. Okay, so I get this a lot. How long in the work world before leaving a blank? So how long are you expected to, work on a blank before you leave a blank? And I would say after you've been working a year or so, and, probably not more than 5 minutes. That's if you can hear enough of it to figure it out. I've been told pretty consistently throughout my career from my supervisors not to spend more than 5 minutes on a blank. Some say between 2 and 5 minutes. Again, the more researching you do, the more confident you are whether or not you will be able to figure that blank out. It is a skill that you develop over time. So I, again, encourage you to work on those skills now. Another frequently asked question is, how many blanks can I leave a report in the real world? Well, it'll vary, and it'll all depend on your company. I have worked for companies where you can leave up to 5 blanks. I personally think this is way too many. I think this makes transcriptionists lazy, and it makes way for more errors. But I've also worked for a company where I could leave no blanks, and I had to send any blank I had to QA. And it kept me on my toes, and it made me a better transcriptionist. So I see the benefit of that, personally. Okay, I get this a lot. How do we flag in a report? Okay, so everybody sees, it's in your account specifics, and we know, the goal is to blank, you want to use 5 underscores. But if you want to flag something, if you're not sure, you use 5 underscores, and if you have a discrepancy, or if you're like, I don't know, I don't think he's right, he's saying right leg, and I think he means left leg, or something like that, you just put a blank right after that, and then a space, and then you put left, and then close the parentheses. It's as simple as that. This is all in your account specifics. And while we're on this page, a blank cannot contain more than 4 missed words. And it's kind of hard to tell sometimes whether you hear 4 words, 5 words, 10 words, whatever. But if you feel like it's more than 4 words or getting close to it, go ahead and leave another blank. I always suggest leaving a guess, if you can, after that blank, after the space and blank. It helps you. It really does in the long run. But, you know, that is how you flag something. Asterisks. Students do not use asterisks. I know that you see asterisks in the report, and this is something that we use as instructors, or as CanScribe uses, to alert you, the student, that there is information at the bottom of the report for you to read that gives you more information about whatever that is in that report that we want you to know more about. You don't use asterisks. I know you see them and you think, oh, that's how you flag something, but it's not. You use a blank and then parentheses with the flagged or your question there. But you do not use asterisks. And I see it a lot, and I know it is confusing because you see the asterisks in there and then you see the information at the bottom, but that is just for us to get your attention. So hopefully that clears that up. Okay, and let's see, moving on. Big tip, do not look up words as you go along. Come back and look them up. They're just kind of embarrassing. It took me a long time to get to do this, and it's because I have issues. I want to know the answer, and I want to know it now. So if you're like me and need to know immediately what the answer is, I just want to give you some really good advice while you're new and learning and developing habits that will last you a long time. Just wait, blank, and just go on. A lot of you have already probably figured this out, which is good on you, seriously, but I have spent way too much time looking up terms and phrases only to hear the dictator say it plainly later in the report. I have wasted so much time and so much money, really, because of the time spent, because again, I'm like a dog with a bone, and I'm stubborn, and it's a hard habit to break. So please try to learn it early in your career. It will be of great benefit to you. Another kind of question that I would get a lot is, how long should I work on each report? Well, because of each report varies in length, dictator accent, possibilities of new terminology, there's just no set answer for this. And there are so many variables in this business and so many gray areas. And I know that you all hate to hear that from the instructors, but it's true. The time it's going to take you is the time it's going to take you. And I promise I'm not being sarcastic. It's just the truth. It's, you know, I hate it, but it's just the truth. How long are reports in the work world? Well, reports can vary anywhere from 1 second, this is usually an error, to over an hour. And if it's over an hour, it's usually when they forget to hang up from dictating. So one dictator actually fell asleep while they were dictating, snoring softly in the background. And one of my favorite stories, not at the time though, was when a dictator thought, because he put the phone down, that the dictation was on hold, and he went on to tell a buddy of his about his weekend, and it went on for 45 minutes. And so I had to continue to fast forward, because I didn't want to hear what he did over the weekend, but I had to keep fast forwarding until I got to the point where he got back to the report where he was, dictating about the patient. And he actually said, the other guy said, "Can't they hear you?" And he says, "Oh no, once I put it down, it's on hold." So that was a long report. So usually it can vary, and sometimes you do have to fast forward, especially when the dictators don't know how to work the system. So anyway, okay, moving on. How do I know when to use a hyphen instead of two? Okay, I said this was going to be a little random, and it is. So Book of Style 6.5.7 and 11.4.1, both give a list of conditions that must be met in order to use a hyphen. So this says use a hyphen in place of the word to, not through, but to, in range expressions if all of the following 5 conditions have been met. Now, the phrases from, to, from, through, and between, and are not used. No decimals or commas appear. None of them have 4 or more digits. Neither value is a negative, or neither value is accompanied by a symbol. And here's some examples. Okay, so the first one has a symbol. Can't use the hyphen. Has to use the to. The second one grew from to. So it's a from to. Can't use the hyphen. The third one has a decimal. Cannot use the hyphen. The fourth one has more than 4 digits, or has 4 digits, so you can't use the hyphen. And the last one has more than 4 digits, obviously, so can't use the to. Book of Style 4.1 also gives these that you can't use because it has symbols. Symbols again, and then the negative, and between, and you can't use that. I don't know, that last one doesn't even fit. So anyway, okay. So another frequent question students ask is how to know what a dangerous abbreviation is. And some students will be like, how am I supposed to know these things? Like, how am I supposed to even know that it's a dangerous abbreviation? Well, familiarize yourself with your account specifics and your Book of Style 9.3. So your dangerous abbreviations, as per Book of Style, should not be used. So refer to 931 and 932 for a list of dangerous abbreviations. This can result in a critical error. So we really have to be especially, careful with these, and you need to familiarize yourself with these abbreviations. 931 has a list. If you'll scroll down, it talks about CC, QD, QHS, DC, HS, trailing zeros, etc. It is a very important read, and you should take the time to, mark that down and read it, and make a note of those. Get you some sticky notes and put up. I'm sure you all do, but it's a good advice for those that don't. I do want to point out that there is an important section in your Book of Style, section 4, that it's a great resource for special rules regarding specialties, and it has a great cardiology. When you have like cardiology questions, it talks about EKG and terms and sounds, and all of these have classification systems, and so it's just it has all of them. I mean, it is a great resource, so be sure to check that out. Also, Appendix C, one of my favorite ones is sound likes. And that is, I bet if you'll go there, you'll find some words that you are spelling incorrectly or using incorrectly. And so just, make sure. Okay, moving on to a couple of other little random things here. To whom it may concern, always with initial caps. Think of this as somebody's name. To John, to Mary. It's just substitute somebody's name. It would be all caps. I don't know exactly the book of style rule, but that is just the rule. I apologize. And you can use a comma or a colon after that. Either one is acceptable. You will see it both ways in your reports. This is just kind of random, but I do get these questions occasionally, and I thought I would mention it. For military time, and some hospitals do use this, you don't use a colon. It's just 2400 or whatever with no, it's just, the numbers without the colon. Okay, this one we see a lot. It's possessive adjectives. So 1 year, singular, and then it's what experience? It's 1 year's experience. So you want to put the apostrophe after the year and then apostrophe S, experience. If it's plural, it's going to be how many months? It's going to be plural months, and then your apostrophe is going to go after the word months. 3 days, plural, and the apostrophe goes after days. It's showing possessive adjective. It's what time? It's 3 days time. Gestation is another good example of that. 40 weeks gestation, 1 week's worth. So you will see this book of style 10.3.13 has a lot of good information. It's not just on possessive adjectives, but this one you see a lot in dictations. You see this, it is used a lot of possessive adjectives. So this is a really good one to kind of familiarize yourself with. Another one is when express time with compound modifiers, that precede a noun. This kind of like book of style 6.5.2, but a 1 more month course, a 6-week follow-up, 3-month follow-up appointment. You see that very, very often in your reports. So it's just describing what? It's describing the follow-up. It's describing the appointment. It's telling you what kind of appointment it's going to be. It's going to be a 6-week appointment. So it needs to go together. It needs to be combined to show what kind of appointment or what kind of follow-up. And the period, 3-day period, it shows you 3 days. It's not, it describes that. So it needs to be together to show that. This is just another question that I see often. Disc, K, spinal. Disc, C, you see with your eyes, C, just kind of remember that. This is a major 1.5 error if you get it wrong in the reports, but disc C is for ophthalmologic terms, so keep that in mind. Again, just throwing out some random questions that I get. We see, just quite a few different questions. Okay, so book of style 18.2.1 talks about cranial nerves, and I want you to note that it's okay to use the Roman numerals or the Arabic numerals, but you need to be consistent. And again, it says defer to client, facility, or preference. And excuse me, it's okay, whichever one you want to use, but you can use a hyphen here between these. Cranial nerves 2 through 12. It's okay to use that. Now, when you get to the 18.2.2 talks about vertebrae. You cannot use the word vertebrae through. You cannot use a hyphen here. The reason being, okay, let's read that because I want y'all to understand it. When expressing a range between two non-adjacent vertebrae, where the word through, not to, is used, spell it out and do not hyphenate. To hyphenate, especially in reference to fusions, would imply an erroneous construction. So they give the example, we performed a fusion of T10 through T12. You want to transcribe it just like that, because if you put the hyphen there in the example given, It says, sorry, I'm so sorry, in the example above, to express this as T10 to T12 would imply that T10 was fused to T12 rather than a procedure that involved the fusion of T10 to T12. I mean T11 and T11 to T12. So just make sure that you are not, do not use a single hyphen to express a range when more than 2 vertebrae are specifically dictated. So 3, 4, 3, 5, just don't use L3 to L5. Transcribe L3-L4-L5 fusion when the noun follows it like that. Don't like skip out the L4 like that. So 1822 is a good read also. Okay, I get questions about just what is subject and verb agreement. And that is just making sure that the subject, if it's plural, that you use a plural verb. If you use a singular subject, then you use a singular verb. Now, a lot of times, a dictator will say, the lesions is multiple, or the lesion are singular. You have to change it to make it correct. That's what we're talking about when we say, please make subject and verb agree. So if they mess up, you have to correct that. That is something that you can, even if they're, when we say be verbatim, we still want you to change that to be grammatically correct. Okay, just going to throw in the follow-up because, that's always a good one. Somebody came up with substituting the word eat in for the verb. If the sentence makes sense using the word eat, then use the 2-word form. The patient will follow up with me next week. The patient will eat with me next week. That makes sense. So you want to use it as a verb, a 2-word. The patient has a follow-up appointment scheduled. The patient has an eat appointment scheduled. Well, that does not make sense. So you would use 1 word, and it would be, it makes noun. Another way to look at it is an article, a, the, and, comes before a noun or an adjective, and that would be 1 word anyway. This also works for words like setup, makeup, timeout, checkup, any number of words. So if you can substitute the word eat or another verb in there that makes sense to you, then try that, and hopefully that will work. Some people have said that really, really helps them. Okay, so some people say webinars they cannot attend, and apparently, you guys know that you can get here, but some people can't, and if they can't, and this will be posted on the web, on the forum, so it kind of seems redundant, but just in case, there's this thing, if you're unable to attend, it will be posted on the forum for you, and here are just a few of the, they're listed by year, and check it out. They're posted 2017, 2016. They're just a slew of them. So anyway, okay. So I get a lot of questions about account specifics. And again, I want to stress the importance to you of account specifics, because your account specifics count 1.5 points apiece when you get an error for your account specifics. So many questions stem from finding a book of style rule, applying it, and then not understanding it when it's marked incorrect. So to understand the reason why, you have to understand the hierarchy. So this can be found in your account specifics at the very end. When verifying information, you must follow the hierarchy that's listed in the order below. Account specifics, number 1. You see book of style is number 3. And then Stedman's, and then internet. So account specifics, number 1. And It's just, that's just the way it is. You will have rules. Now, if it's not mentioned in there and you can find it in Book of Style, then that's where it will be. Okay? I'm going to give you a good example of account specifics first. APCARs, 9 at 1 and 9 at 5 minutes. So we use numerals for our account specifics. So Book of Style rules say otherwise. It says 19.2.1 says write out the numbers related to minutes to avoid ambiguity between scores and minutes. And it also says APGAR score is preferred to the coined term APGARs and should be expanded where facility guidelines allowed for expansion. Our account specifics say we transcribe verbatim. So if they say APGARs, you want to transcribe APGARs. If they say APGAR scores, transcribe APGAR scores. And we use the numerals for our account specifics. So if you do if you spell those out, that's going to be an account specific error, even though the Book of Style says that, because account specifics first. So you have to understand that hierarchy. And Book of Style rules, while we go for that, that's a great reference, and we look for that for guidance a lot of times, we have to follow our account specifics first. And so anyway, that's just how it is. That is just how it is. And remember, protocol errors, account specifics are 1.5 points apiece, and punctuation errors are a quarter of a point. If you can't find the account specific the information in your account specifics, if you can find it in your account specifics, follow that rule first. I also get this, how to know when to make a heading. Well, in your account specifics, it says, if a verb is dictated, this would be a sentence and not a heading. So if it's dictated medications include, or medications showed, or medications what, or were, or anything like that, it's going to be a sentence, and not just think of that as sentence. I think we overthink things a lot of times. If it's not dictated and it just says medications, Prozac and Lipitor, then you transcribe that as a heading and then list it below. Now, if it's a diagnosis, impression, or assessment, that's always a heading. That's the exception to every rule. So if it's dictated with a verb, it's a sentence. If it's dictated with a without a verb, then it's a chief complaint. You do it as a heading. So just one more time here, if it's dictated in narrative in a sentence format with a verb, just transcribe as dictated, like in sentence in conversational style. Do not make a heading. Exception is diagnosis, assessment, impression, where you always make a heading no matter how it's dictated. How do I know how to format the physical exam? Again, this information can be found in your account specifics. The only thing you need to worry about with physical exam, if there's even one item in that physical exam that has a stacking, anything that has, a subheading, then it has to be stacked. If there's even one, like that HENT, then that changes everything, and you have to stack it. No subheadings, don't stack. See that HENT shows, so that's a verb, and it's just a whole paragraph. If there's even one, though, or all, then you stack. So that just changes everything. It simplifies it. And no subheadings, don't stack. Paragraph format. All of this can be found in your account specifics. Okay, account specifics say to use numbers, but what about the number 1? Okay, so this is spelled out if no noun follows 1. So if it's used as a pronoun, you spell it out. I found that 1 to be great. There's no noun following 1. I found 1 report. Report is a noun, so you're going to use the number for that. That was transcribed. I like that 1. Nothing is following that. You spell it out. I would like 1, please. He is one of the cutest puppies ever. Well, nothing follows that. He used 1 stitch. Noun follows. Use the number. She had 1 cut. Noun follows. She had 1 point. Noun follows. Use the number. I mean, that is the answer right there. If the noun follows it, use the number. If no noun follows it, spell it out. That's pretty much the rule right there. Okay. And let's see, this is another one I get often. Department, specialty, specialist. What to capitalize and when to capitalize. Okay, for hospitals, clinics, etc., units, if it is, excuse me, I'm so sorry. If it is not named, generally it will be lowercase. So we scrub all the information here at CanScribe. If the information is scrubbed in front of the hospital, then it should be capitalized. The patient will be admitted to scrubbed hospital. The patient will be transferred to scrubbed coronary care unit. They're just scrubbing the name of that. It'd be like Mission Coronary Care Unit. It's a named facility. The patient was sent to the emergency department. Well, that's generic. It could be any emergency department. The patient was sent to the Mission Emergency Department. So that's a named facility. So just keep that in mind. If it's scrubbed, they're naming it, and you want to capitalize it. These are all a bit different. So if it's a specialist, it's not capitalized unless it's part of a name, scrubbed anesthesia specialist or something like that, like the name, like a named group. Specialties ending in ologies are sometimes capitalized, and quite often they are. So the patient was seen by gastroenterology. So the trick is, if you can replace the specialty with a name, such as John, and it fits, then capitalize it. The patient will be seen by plastic surgery. The patient will be seen with John. Yes, it fits. If it doesn't fit, then use lowercase. So the patient was seen by the neurologist. By the John? No. Okay. So the patient was seen by neurology. By John? Yes. The patient will be referred to gastroenterology. Yes. The patient was referred to the gastroenterologist. No. There are exceptions to every single rule, of course, and in, the word in before it, you can't be seen in someone, so that would be lowercase. You can't be seen in John. If you have an article that comes before it, then that's not going to be capitalized. The patient will have a dermatology referral. If you put an article, A, in front of a John referral, no, that's not going to work. So it's going to be lowercase. So kind of keep that in mind. If you can just put that name and really, like if you're using the word mom and, like I will see my mom, but if you drop my and you say I will see mom, then you'll capitalize it because you can substitute somebody's name. So keep those little tips in mind. Test questions. I found my answer on the internet and got my answer wrong. Your test questions come many times from your course material. Remember the hierarchy. When verifying information, you must follow the hierarchy in order listed. CanScribe, MT, HDS course material. And you need to be verbatim about it too. If you can find it on one of those tables, you need to put your answers in just as you find it in those tables. That's where we get our test answers. How are my grades totaled, and will one grade bring my test score down? This can be found under content, under program orientation, and how to study and prepare for testing. It says that your final grade, as reflected in your official transcript, will be based on the sum total of chapter tests, 3%, chapter exercises and activities, 2%, instructor graded dictations, 5%, Pi 1, 15, Pi 2, 25, Pi practicum, 15, and up above that it breaks down your practicum, how it's broken down, and then your Pi 3, 35%. And then it goes on to show you what graduation, how that's graded, how that's broken down. So that's a good one to bookmark and keep handy also. Hopefully one grade will not bring you down. You will need to, continue on your striving to make as high grades as possible. But you just have to keep on. You have to put it behind you and move forward. Methods for transcribing. CanScribe suggests the 3-pass method, and this can be found in the facts section. Other methods, try it first and then try your own. Once you get more and more comfortable and confident, you'll begin just transcribing the first go round. Once you get in the work world, you're not going to have time to do the 3-pass, but that will be after you've completed your education and you're feeling much more confident and you have your own method down that works best for you. And just remember that if you're in a report and you can't understand what is said, after sufficient research, leave a blank. And if you're unsure of a term, leave a blank with a guess. And that's not just for us, it helps you, because if you get it right, it boosts your confidence. It makes you feel good. And if you're incorrect, it helps you remember what you were thinking at that time. And so it helps you in the future to remember also wait a minute, that's not right. You remember it more when you write it down a little bit. If it's a formatting question, always look first in your account specifics to see if it's there. Okay, just briefly, questions about MDAT. We get these all the time. I log into MDAT, but I don't see any files downloading. Make sure you're using the right username. Check your email that Student Services sent you. If you're especially if you're in the psychiatric, make sure that you've no longer using the first username and password. If you used an A to begin with, it's now a B. If you used a 1, it's now a 2. So just check that to be sure. I see a box that comes up after I submit my reports asking if I want to send a QA. Just leave that box unchecked. We get it anyway. It comes to us, and just hit just leave it unchecked, and then just click OK. And MDAT, quickly, it's like a working platform. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies use MDAT and Inscribe. It doesn't give you immediate feedback, and what happens is when you get to a certain point, one of our instructors will download your reports and they will copy and paste and merge, and it'll end up in your QA folder. It's not like Dictascribe. You don't self-grade, and you'll end up with 23 merged reports and 2 reports will be graded. Again, you don't self-assess, but it is a nice little platform, and you do speech recognition in there, so it's really good experience for you guys. And so today, in closing, I want to just assure you all that we had to start out like you guys. We all started out on different paths, but we had to learn the same information you are learning now. We've gone through very, very similar frustrations, that you have, we do understand. And I know that you all know all too well that we are human as instructors, but I wanted to share a couple of my more memorable early experiences as a young MT to emphasize that point even more, just to kind of, embarrass myself a little bit. So I'd been working in a hospital setting for about 3 months, pretty young in my career. And I had my first QA review, and I was really nervous. And my QA supervisor called me in, and we were going over everything. And she said, what does CHPI mean? And I was really nervous, and I blushed, and I said, Consolidated History of Present Illness. And shame on me, I should have known what it was. I didn't look it up. And she laughed. And I was really kind of felt bad then. And she said, she apologized for laughing. And she said, he was saying CHPI. I was so embarrassed. And she told me that the staff had gotten such a chuckle out of that, and I was like, well, I'm so happy for them. But I was so embarrassed. And so anyway, it didn't end there. Then she said, it gets better. She said, next, she showed me where the doctor had said past medical history, asthma, diabetes, and something else. And I wrote, y'all see that, I'm sure. And okay, to this day, I have no idea what I was thinking. I was still a newbie, and I was not used to typing what the dictator said because he had said colon, but I still don't know what I was thinking. I mean, what was I thinking? That colon was part of a past medical history? I had no idea. Well, the good news is when I left like a year later to go home and work for another company, because that was my goal, to go home, they actually wanted me to stay and wanted to promote me to keep me there. So you will make a few mistakes, and you can and you will, but you have to learn from them. And I also, I'm not finished yet. I'm going to give you a few more so that y'all will feel really good about yourself. I also spelled discrete wrong for 2 years. And students ask, well, how, out of frustration sometimes, how would I know this? How do I know these things? Well, where am I supposed to look? And, some of these answers to these questions you will not know until you make an error. Like, we learn from our mistakes. And that's the only way I learned that I was spelling that word wrong. And I'm glad I learned it too. I'm glad somebody corrected me about that. And that's another reason why the answer key is such a great learning tool, you guys. It's not a punishment. Last one, another day I spent, that discrete, that can be found in the Appendix C in Book of Style, so check that out. Last one I spent, another day I spent close to, well, it seemed like an hour, I'm not sure it was that long, trying to figure out, and eventually did, that a dictator was saying period. I was just sure it was a serious medical condition. He was saying period. I mean, could not figure it out. And, it wasn't my proudest hour, I'll say, but it was definitely one that I remember and laugh at. And now when I hear somebody say period, I quickly know what he's talking about, and I don't make that mistake again. But you guys are going to have your own moments, and I'm really hopeful that you can all look back and have your own moments, and that you're able to laugh at them, because it's a long journey, and it's going to be a tough one, but you should be very proud of yourself. So, just hang in there, and, it's going to get better. And let's see, I'm going to look at your comments. I've been kind of doing that. Yeah, comma. Mm-hmm. And if y'all have any questions specifically, just send your questions today to either instructors@canscribe.com or at S. Anderson at canscribe.com, and I'll be happy to answer anything that I didn't, because I kind of didn't pay attention to the questions as we were going along because I wanted to make sure I got through the webinar today. But I appreciate you all coming today, and I hope you learned at least one thing or two things or something. But, hang in there and try to, you know, not be hard on yourself and use everything that the school has to offer. And, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm so appreciative of you guys coming all the time. Really, it means a lot. And check out the ones that are on the forum, too. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will have, if anybody's concerned, I will have a PDF for this tomorrow at some point, and it'll be posted tomorrow. But thank you, and y'all have a great afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sandra. Thank you. Thanks for coming. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.